Hi everyone, this is Julie Bruns. Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities podcast. I want you to thrive and be happy, peaceful, and content, no matter where you are on your journey. This podcast shares stories that will show you how it can be done, no matter what your circumstances. You'll be inspired and come away with a new spark of an idea. Never forget, anything is possible. New episodes are released every Wednesday. Subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. This helps others find our content and get happier sooner. To possibility and beyond. All right. Thanks for joining, you guys. This next episode of the Peace and Possibilities podcast is with my guests are Marc and Kim Ramirez. And I heard about their story when I actually was trying a vegan diet at the beginning of the year. My husband wanted to try it along with my teenage son. And we started reading, and I think the whole thing sparked because my husband saw the documentary. Marc, you can name it for me if when we talk in just a second. But I think that's where the whole idea came from my husband, and said, I want to try this just for a couple of weeks. It's the new year. Let's see if we can do it. And I was on board already because I have been a vegetarian for over 10 years. So I'm like, let's just try it and see how it goes. So he saw the documentary, and it's like, look at these people and look how their lives have changed from eating better, et cetera. And I remember seeing pictures of you too, Marc. So thanks for joining me today, you guys. Say hello to Marc and Kim. How are you guys?
Good. We are absolutely great. Julie, thank you so much for having us. We're honored to be here on your podcast and hoping to share some wisdom that we've learned over the last few years.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Awesome. Thank you. Tell me the name of the documentary I keep referencing so people can go check it out, Marc.
Yeah, so the documentary, the name is Eating You Alive. And it's pretty cool because it has, obviously many doctors talking about how they're helping people transform and dramatically improve their lives. Has some testimonials, and we were honored to be featured as the diabetes testimonial in that documentary. And it also has some celebrities, right? Like James Cameron, Samuel L. Jackson, and Penn Jillette. Those are some celebrities, and they also talk about how they've been able to see dramatic improvement when they fix the food.
That's crazy. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit. You both have this business, Chickpea and Bean, and you can talk a little bit more about what that is. How did you know, going through this journey and getting healthier and eating better, how did you know you wanted to do something, like kind of like a side hustle? Did you know when you started this journey that would end up that way all along? Or was it like, let's do this so we can share our story with more people and get more people in the community aware of what's happening? How did that start for you guys?
But in the beginning, we didn't have plans to start any sort of business. We really weren't even sure if eating plant-based was going to help the way it did. And then when we saw the dramatic improvements, we felt like we had to share the information. There are so many people suffering who don't have to. And we thought we really need to get this information out there to help other people. So when we saw how much it improved our lives, we felt compelled to create something to get the message out there so that more people had access to the information.
Yeah, and because it was obviously food was the main thing that we changed and transformed our lives with. So when we started Chickpea and Bean, I'm Mexican, so I'm Bean of that equation. And my wife is a chick and she's Chickpea, and it's Chickpea and Bean. And that's kind of how the name, we just wanted to try and make the company and the business, our nonprofit, kind of revolve around food, because that is where we saw the transformative effects that to this day, almost 9 years later, we are still benefiting from.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how long it's been. So it's been 9 years, which is crazy. So tell the listeners a little bit about the two of you, how you started just real quickly before we get into some of the other like life lessons things, where you're like, obviously they can, dive into it more in the movie, but how is it like you guys wanted to try this because something was brought to your attention, you weren't feeling well? What was the initial catalyst?
Yeah, so basically, I was sick. I was sick for a decade. I was diabetic for 10 years. And in that 10 years, when I was initially diagnosed with diabetes, you fast forward in that decade, I also end up with high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I end up with psoriasis all over my scalp, frequent heartburn, obesity, ED. I don't sleep very well, and I'm overweight. And so, I was just every year, I come from a big Mexican family, and I love my family, big family. However, actually most ended up struggling and battling diabetes. And to this day, many of them still do. But the bottom line is, I saw the history. I saw the heart attacks, the strokes, the blindness, the amputations, the transplants, the dialysis. And I saw myself headed down that same trajectory with Kim, my wife, and then my two children. And we had tried in that decade of being sick, Julie, we had tried to count carbs, count calories, portion control, all these different tactics you hear about, all these yo-yo diets. And while some of them, hey, I lost a few pounds, felt a little better. When I look back, peel that onion, and we reflect back to that time, I lost weight. I looked a little better in the mirror because I shed a few pounds. And emotionally, yeah, you feel better. But I was still sick. I was still having to take the medication. So it wasn't until we fixed the food that we realized, the whole transformation to where now we could eliminate the medications. Because I was on insulin shots and 4 oral medications towards the end of that decade. So I'm injecting myself with insulin multiple times a day, checking my glucose levels and taking all these pills. And I was only getting worse. Every year, it just got a little bit worse. And when we adopted this lifestyle, in a matter of months, actually 2 months to be exact, I was off all those medications, and in 3 months I had shed 50 pounds. And that was kind of the aha moment for me, in that 2 to 3 month time frame, that I'm losing weight, I'm off all my meds, I feel better than I have in decades, and my energy levels, my whole body's starting to transform for the better.
Kim, did you have any struggles, or were you just kind of like, you're on board because you wanted to see him healthy? And I was just curious. I didn't remember that.
Yeah, I really was thrilled when he wanted to try this, and and at the time I was thinking, oh, I'm doing this for him, to keep him company sort of on this journey.
Yeah.
And then I discovered that I had experienced benefits as well. The most important one to me was the psychological and emotional benefits, because I was really worried about him. We kind of had this storm coming, and I felt like there's this big dark cloud over our future, because I saw the pain and suffering his family members went through, and he looked like he was headed that way. So when we discovered that eating this way could battle his diabetes, and when he saw such dramatic health improvements, I felt like we were in control. It was really liberating and empowering. And that just made the whole dynamics of our family changed, our relationship changed, and the future looked bright again. So that was the best change that I experienced. There were also some other things, like physically. I used to get debilitating headaches once a month, and those really got a lot better. I would get headaches still, but they were very mild. I had a mole that needed to be biopsied because it looked suspicious and might have been cancer. But after eating this way about 2 months, it just disappeared. Those were the main things that I experienced. But like I said, the change in our psychological and emotional health really was the best thing.
That's awesome. And then did you have your kids getting on board too, you guys? Was it like, we're going to do this and you can kind of come along if you want, or we're all doing it?
It's funny because initially my daughter was just on her way out to college, and my son was a freshman/sophomore in high school. And when we first told them, hey, we're going to do this, they looked at us like we were crazy, cross-eyed, like, what is wrong with you guys? Is this a midlife crisis? What's your problem? And then we start bringing this food into the house, and we're like, hey, do you want to try a veggie burger or a black bean burger? And they're like, no, get the heck out of here. What are you talking about, right? So initially there was resistance. But over time, as they kept trying the different foods that Kim and Kim would prepare for us, because she does the majority of the cooking,
okay.
And I'm very thankful and appreciative of that. But eventually, now my daughter is predominantly plant-based, not 100%, but very close. And my son, who he just acquired his master's from the University of Michigan, so he's just got out of college, and he is like 90 to 95% there as well. So tremendous
Awesome.
benefits. And what's really cool is, I improved my health, but Kim did as well. She lost some weight, that mole, her energy levels, hair's thicker, nails stronger. My son had digestive issues when all throughout his childhood, he was struggling with digestive issues. Those all went away once he started eating a plant-based lifestyle. My daughter had acne, which again cleared up once she stopped eating dairy and cutting way back on the oils. I mean, so all of us have benefited, and it's really been a cool ride and it's been a cool journey.
I don't know if you guys have thought about this or not, or already on doing this, but I think it'd be a really cool book to say like mom, dad, son, daughter, and all of the transformation from each. Just you listing what they all went through and the improvements for everyone. That'd be a cool little story. I don't know if you guys have thought about that, but I think that would definitely be.
Yeah, we've been talking about a book and just kind of sharing the journey and yeah, just it's been amazing, and we're so blessed in so many different ways, Julie, that finding out about this lifestyle and really our eyes opening up to so much more. I mean, we get it, right? We get why people do what they do, because foods out there, the fast food chains, et cetera, they're convenient, they're quick, they're fast. It can be ready in just a minute or two, right? You just swing in the drive-thru and swing out, and bam, you're done. But unfortunately, a lot of those foods, I mean, they're so loaded with fat and sugars and salt and so many chemicals and additives, and it's no wonder that so many people struggle today, right?
I know. It's so, yeah, obviously there's people can just go read about it, watch the movies, etc., because there's so much information out there, and it is inspiring to see the stories. That's what touched us, watching your story and the other stories in that movie, and just, seeing, especially not just seeing, I remember specifically, Mark, about your story, like this athlete, a football player, this big, because my husband's a manly man. He's not, you know what I mean? He likes to eat, but he works out and plays basketball. But it's like, when you look at those guys or talk to those guys, I'm just going to say, hey, why don't you not have a steak? Why don't you have a veggie burger or whatever it is? It's such a foreign concept, and it's looked down upon from what I've seen so far. You were just telling people that we were doing it back in January and February. They were like, what do you eat? You're not eating meat. What are you getting for protein? It's like, oh my gosh, there's so many other things out there you can eat. But it was, especially the men, I think that it's almost like taboo to have to want to eat like this, or to tell other people you're doing this. So I'm so glad it's nice to have people in your position to say, hey, I'm one of those people that you would think would never be able to do this, and look what I'm able to accomplish with the right support, obviously, and the right information. So that was definitely a big thing for us when we were watching as a family.
Yeah, I will tell you, Julie, and your listener and the listeners right now, that's how I thought. If you would have told me 9 years ago that I would be eating plants and I wouldn't be eating any more steak or fajitas or enchiladas or tacos that I grew up on and loved and ate all the time, and the steaks I would eat at training table at the University of Michigan where I played football. I was 305 pounds when I played there, right guard, big guy. And you talk about manly, and that's what's bred into us. Growing up around football, it was bred into me. Hey, eat a bunch of meat, eat a bunch of steak. You're going to get a lot of protein. You're going to get big and strong, right? And so that's all I knew, because that's what I was hearing from my coaches and my trainers. And you go to training table, and there's these huge vats full of steaks, right? I'd have 2 and 3, no problem, every time for dinner. And, it's unfortunate though, because when you look at all those foods, that I am sure that those foods, even early on in my career, they are what ended up contributing to me being so sick later on in life. And, when you look at, there's a great documentary that's out right now that I want to share with you, and you may have heard of it already, you and all the listeners, but it's called The Game Changers. Have you heard of it? Oh
yeah, we've seen it. That's
cool.
So yes.
So it kind of debunks this whole thing that, you need to eat meat to get protein, and there's tons of protein in the in the plant-based world, in the way of beans and quinoa, and fruits and vegetables, and you can get all you need from the plant-based world. And professional athletes today, more and more, are finding out that when they eat plants, they recover quicker, their endurance is longer. Just everything about their play. And if you think about at that level, at the professional level, in the NFL and the NHL and the NBA, they need every little slight advantage over the competition to be better, right? And so more and more of them are turning to the food, because that's what a lot of them, have not been doing, but I think more and more it's catching on.
Totally agree. Yes, we definitely saw that one, and that was one of the ones I think that put it over the edge for my husband to say, okay, let's do it. Definitely, it was in the mix of putting us into that trying the plant-based diet. So let's talk about the mind a little bit, because something I noticed too when we were doing it was even just like a week into it, the clarity in my mind, like the creativity and the more ideas and stuff like that I was noticing, because I wasn't a meat eater already, but then it was taking the dairy out of the mix. And I noticed that lighter feeling, but my head was clearer, my thoughts were clearer. It's not something you think about too much. Obviously your body's changing and all those other good health aspects, but that was one of the ones where I was surprised. I was surprised to see that change so quickly. So, go ahead.
Julie, when you think about all of the enzymatic reactions that happen when we eat these foods, right? I mean, there's videos out there, and I'll share one with you. It's on YouTube, but it's ABC News One High Fat Meal. It's like a 3-minute video on YouTube. But what that shows is that when we consume and eat foods that are very high in fat and animal products, it shows how our bodies react to these foods. And your blood becomes more viscous. It starts to sludge up, if you will. And so now your body is struggling to try and process all that food, process all that fat. And at the end of the day, now you're not getting really as much oxygen, as much nutrients to all these cells. I mean, you think about the human body, it's an amazing machine, right? That heart, if you live to your early 70s on average, it's going to pump 2.5 to 3 billion times. And it's got to go in 2.5 to 3 billion times without fail. And it's got to go in and feed all these cells and all the capillaries and everything in your body. You think about our cardiovascular system, that's approximately 25,000 miles long in the average human. That'll wrap the world, the entire planet a couple of times almost, right? So, and it's got to go and feed approximately, some of the best guess, 34 trillion cells in every one of us. All these cells that make up our nails, our muscles, our toes, our eyes, our kidneys, so think about what it has to do. And so when we're not when we're not eating foods that help heal that body, that help with the transmission of all that oxygen and nutrients throughout your entire body, including your brain, you start to become more lethargic, more sluggish. And this is why people, when they start setting those foods aside and eating the most nutrient dense foods on the planet, which come from the plant-based world, that's when you start to feel better.
Right. And besides the fat sort of sludging everything up, the hormones in animal foods too, I think play a big part in mental clarity and mood and things like that too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's fascinating. It's so, and I love that it's so easy to get information. Like you have these videos, YouTube, you can books, there's articles. It's not just like, oh, you have to sit down and read this 500-page book to figure out how to eat better. It's so much easier now. There's so many cool websites and recipes and stuff. It's so easy to do. We were finding it more difficult to do with all of the stuff going on with the pandemic, because the stuff that you wanted to get that was healthy wasn't as available, or it's fresh and you wanted to get it frozen because you were afraid of who's touching it and where it's coming from and all that. So that made it, that definitely threw a wrench in it. And now that everything's kind of opening back up, it's getting a little bit easier. But no matter where you can shop it, you can still get it. It doesn't have to be fresh. It can still be frozen. You can still eat healthy, etc.
For sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's interesting that because we've been, sheltering in place for the most part, and I've actually lost some weight here. I've become more mindful of the food. Before I was eating out, even though you can eat out and buy vegan food out at the restaurants and stuff. Kim, we've been staying home because we have a brand new grandson. It's our first in the family. So for us, for Kim and I, and we want to protect him and my daughter. But it's interesting that just a few days ago, I weighed myself and I was 199. I have not been less than 200 pounds since 5th grade. So,
oh my gosh.
So it's pretty cool that, again, kind of helps me reboot and reset as well to say, you know what, don't eat out so much. The foods that Kim and that we make here at home are going to be probably the best for us if they're surrounded the plant-based lifestyle.
Yeah. And you have more time. You have time that you didn't have before because you're not commuting to work, et cetera.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. There's less
Correct.
excuses for sure. So all of this, so you've been doing this for almost a decade and you're feeling great and you both have, so you have the side business, the chickpea and bean, the non-for-profit, you started this and that's going well. And obviously you have, so I would say, success in physically and mentally doing, pursuing this different lifestyle and everything that's plant-based, eating plant-based food and stuff. What do you think has kept you successful along the way, helping you to create this non-for-profit that's going to help other people? What are some of the other things you're doing besides obviously eating well and good stuff that's kept you guys happy and peaceful and content and strong with your marriage, obviously, and able to do all these other things in addition to having your full-time jobs and stuff? What would you say are some of those traits?
I think, having each other, it really helps to have somebody do this along with you, and so you can support each other and share ideas and things like that. I also have noticed that when we have classes or presentations and we interact with people who are trying this for the first time, and they tell us how they're feeling and they give us ideas about recipes and things like that, that kind of boosts me up too. That is really inspiring to see other people discover positive changes in their lives.
Yeah, and I think, Julie, when you look at, we've been doing this pretty much 9 years now, and we have helped hundreds and hundreds of people do kind of what we've done: eliminate a boatload of medicines, dramatically improve their health, lose a boatload of weight, right? Just to regain their health and understand that, hey, you know what? I can do this. We can do this. And, just the fact all the folks that we've helped, it kind of keeps us really energized. I mean, we've run the whole gamut from younger children all the way to people that are, maybe more adult in their 70s and 80s. But everybody that has changed their life and changed the foods, and maybe, look at your lifestyle. What are you doing? Am I drinking too much? Am I smoking too much? Am I not eating the right foods? Am I not getting any exercise? If you can move some of those to improve for the better. Don't drink or drink too much. Don't smoke. Exercise a little bit. You don't have to go run marathons, and fuel your body with the most nutrient dense foods. People get better. I mean, we have not seen one person that has adopted this lifestyle that truly made a concerted effort and did it that didn't feel better, didn't improve in multiple ways. And so because of that, it keeps us energized and we keep moving on, and we just keep seeing people getting better. And there's just tons of people that we've touched and we feel very honored to have worked with. And we continue to work with people and help them, transition to this lifestyle.
I love what you said about connecting and getting inspiration to, Kim, from hearing everyone else's stories and them sharing your purpose is to teach them and help them and guide them, and they're turning around and teaching you, obviously, because they're getting excited and they're trying different things, and that's what it's all about, right? It's not just like standing up there and saying, go do this and we'll see you later. It's like, no, you love probably hearing all of that. It gives you energy, and then it gives you more inspiration to keep doing what you're doing, right? And then help your kids too, and their kids eventually, right?
Yeah, and what's amazing too, Julie, is when you take a step back and you think about it, we are all connected. And when I say we, I'm not just talking about humans. I'm talking about the sentient beings. I'm talking about Mother Earth, right? We are all connected. And I mean, look at this pandemic going on. We're all affected, right? If you look at how, this is what I love about this lifestyle too. It opened my eyes to so many more things that we were just blind to. We didn't, I never used to think about these animals that were suffering because I wanted to eat a piece of steak or because I wanted a piece of sausage or cheese or whatever, right? And the bottom line is we're all connected, and what happens to one of us is going to happen to all of us. You look at the carbon emissions and the carbon footprint that revolve around all these processes to make these foods, etc. I mean, it's all related, it's all connected, and every one of us, each one of us can make some choices to try and help in that area, to try, because I think about my grandson who was just born a little over 2 months ago. What kind of world and life is he going to have 20 years from now, 40 years from now, right? I mean, we see all the devastation around climate change and things happening, and what can we do to try and improve that, not only for us, but for them down the road, right? So
Yeah.
This has just been an amazing transformation for us, and it's also pretty cool when you sit back and you think, hey, I'm one person, but we can make some change. Each one of us can.
That's true.
I love that. Yes, that's a great segue because I wanted to ask you guys about if you had advice for someone who was, when your kids, when you guys started this 10 years ago and your kids were in high school and college, and you had to say to, a college kid or someone who's just graduating high school and going to study something to figure out what they want to do with their lives. What would you tell them? They're searching for meaningful careers. They want to be connected with people and inspire and do something that really matters. What would you say to those kids? Probably stuff you've already said to your kids.
I think keep your mind and your heart open. Be open to new ideas and new people, and to be curious and explore our world, and then find what you have a passion for. Find what touches your heart, and let that guide you into making some decisions.
Yeah, because the things we've learned, right? The things, and again, I agree with Kim. Find what you're passionate about. You need to love what you're doing. And if you don't, especially when you're young starting out, keep looking to find something that you love doing. Because the last thing you want to do is 20, 30, 40 years into your career, you realize I really didn't like what I did this whole time. You want to love it. You want to have passion about it. Now, some are going to figure that out quickly. Others, like, me, I found out I was 42, 43 years old before I really realized what I was really passionate about. So if you can keep searching for that, keep looking for what motivates you, what you're passionate about, and hopefully that'll drive you to make the best decisions that you can for you.
So true. And it's because I have our younger one just graduated high school too. And it's not like, I don't want kids to get the idea that it's like, I don't like that, so I'm not working hard for it. Like, it has to be something that, because I have talked to a lot of younger kids, my son's age, as they're graduating and going off to college. And it's like, and even our older one who just graduated last year from college, like, it's not about just only being happy at work and only doing something that, like Kim was saying, you have to follow your heart and your mind and keep searching and explore. It's not like just be happy all the time and that's all you need to do. It's like, no, it's all of the things you were mentioning, and how you can contribute and be of service and helping people. And it doesn't, you could look to any occupation out there and think, how is this thing helping people? How is this thing serving the greater good, or whatever it is? If it's not, just making me happy. And eventually, when you are doing something that you're passionate about and that you are, that your heart's open to, and and you love what you're doing, and you would never look back and regret anything, all of those things contribute to the greater good of, like you were saying, Mother Earth and everyone that's connected. It's like it all. And if you're doing that for yourself, and you can tell your kids and your grandkids to do that, and the more people that do that, the better our world looks, and the more compassionate we are to everything we're doing, putting into our bodies, how we're treating animals, how we're treating each other. So it's so much more far-reaching than I think when you're telling them at that age that they're more self-absorbed, and that's just the age, adolescence, right? It's normal for them to be thinking that way, but I think it's important to have people like you guys to say, hey, all of these other things are encompassing that. It's not just like, oh, go, you like playing video games? Just go play video games then for the rest of your life. No, that's not the answer.
Right.
Yeah, it's good. That's great advice. Okay, so do either of you have anything you wish you would have learned earlier in your life, knowing what you know now? I can kind of guess a little bit from what you
Well, I tell you, for me, from my perspective, I wish that I could have known this years ago to help my mother. My mother passed in 2002, the same year that I was diagnosed with diabetes. But even more than that, ever since I have memories of my mother, she was taking pills for diabetes. She was diabetic over 33 years. And she passed right about when I was 33 or so years old. So the bottom line is, I wished I would have known this more so that I could have tried to help her, and also many of my other brothers and sisters, so to help them as well. But that's kind of, I just wished I would have learned this early. I wished I would have known how I impact, animals and the planet and world hunger by the choices that I make. And that for me is the biggest thing that I wished I would have known sooner.
Yeah, I agree. I had a grandma with diabetes who really struggled, and I really wish I could have told her what I know now, that would have, she might even still be here today if I'd known then what I know now.
Yeah.
But I also think this information came to us and we figured it out and kind of explored the possibilities of plant-based eating when we became aware of it. And it was the time was right for us when we
Right.
did go in that direction. And I am happy with where we are now. And my past got us to this point. So
Yeah. That's why I changed it. I used to say, like, what's your biggest regret? But it's really like, what would you wish you'd learned a little bit earlier so your life could have been different sooner or better sooner, which is why I do the podcast. I want to share information so that people don't have to wait till they're, like you were saying, Mark, in your 40s to discover it, or to, like, it'd be nice if you could have done it when you were 25, not, just, you could have benefited more sooner. And like, how many siblings do you have, Mark? I'm just curious because I come from a big family too.
Yeah, so there were 8 of us. There's 8 of us in my family. A few have passed on, unfortunately, but 8. There was 5 brothers and 3 sisters in my family, and then my mother.
Okay.
Yeah, so my dad left when I was 7 or 8 years old. Didn't really get to know him. It was just my mom who was the rock of the family, and my siblings.
I have there's 11 of us in my family. There's 3 boys and 8 girls.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I can relate. I can relate for sure. But, and what I was thinking about is that you were saying, giving this information to your mom, and then some of your siblings have, are still sick and some have passed. And it's like, no matter how much I think, sharing it with other people, like you said, Kim, not everyone's ready to do, it has to be the right time for you. But I think the more you guys can share the inspirational stories of the transformation, instead of just like, eating meat for you is bad. Obviously, not everyone knows that, but just sharing the science behind it, but then the transformation of like, look at all these other things, which is what inspired us to go through and start doing it. So stories like yours, like you guys. So I think the more you can share that, and I have another idea for you. I think the book, and then I think you guys should be like creating a little course, a little mini curriculum or mini video series, and sharing these with high school kids that can see themselves in you, Mark. So Kim, I don't know if you were an athlete or whatever in school, but I'm thinking, because I have boys, so my mind's going there, like that were athletic and play basketball and baseball and soccer and all that. And if they could see a person like you that they could relate to when, oh my God, this guy is I'm a football player. I think I need to eat meat. And someone telling them that's lived through it and done it and was in their place, I think it would just be so impactful. So that's another idea for you guys.
All right.
Yeah.
We're going to start that tomorrow.
Yeah. Like, here, we have this thing. You can send it to, and the nice thing now is with all this, for this virtual world, you can create it and send it out to high schools, anyone that wants it. And you guys could have a whole nother side of your business, because I think it's so important. And so that's what our teenager, he saw it. He was like, oh, this athlete could do that. And like with Game Changers, oh, this guy was a wrestler. This guy was a boxer. This guy was an MMA fighter or whatever. He hadn't thought about any of those roles and how impactful they would be. So he was seeing himself in them, and it just made all the difference. So I think that would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it. And again, we're trying to touch any and everybody, just to get the information out there. And what we have found is that some people, they're ready for the change and others are not. And that's okay. We just keep sharing the information. And at some point, usually people, they look to make some kind of change in their lives, and hopefully they'll remember us when they do, and we can just try to help them. And
we stay positive. Every step in the right direction is important, and we're supportive and positive.
It's not about being perfect. It's about progress, right? So just keep taking steps to improve. And Kim and I switched from one day to the next. Not everybody can do that. Know thyself, right? Know that, hey, I can't do that because that doesn't work for me. But I can do like, hey, this week I'm going to focus on breakfast. And then in 2 weeks, I'll focus on lunch. And then maybe in a month or 2, I'll be there. Mm-hmm. You need to understand what you can do to be successful at whatever goals you're setting for yourself, and not just sabotage. So, okay, I'm doing it tomorrow, and then you quit 3 days later, right?
Yeah, that's a great message. Yeah, that's awesome. It's not about being perfect. It's about progress. So I love that. Well, thanks you guys. Thanks for joining me. This has been very enlightening and inspiring and informative too for me, because I learned some new stuff about you guys too. Where can people find more information about you?
So they can find us at our website, which is chickpeaandbean.com. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with the same Chickpea and Bean handle if they look up Chickpea and Bean. So those are the locations. And, we do offer online plant plunges. We are doing stuff online to help people, and we do coaching. So if anyone's interested, they can reach out to us.
Right.
Awesome. That's awesome, you guys. Thank you so much. It's been so fun talking to you. And I can't wait for people to listen to this and get inspired and then connect with you guys to hear more stories. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for getting the information out there, Julie. We appreciate you.
My pleasure. It's awesome. All right, cool. Thanks for joining, you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you love this content, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you found us on. You can get all my social media links in the description below. Help us keep the momentum going so that every person can live their lives happily, doing work they love.